Good morning. I called June 5th, 2018 County Commission meeting to order. And clerk, please call the roll call.
Commissioner Shadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Sparks?
Here.
Commissioner Vidrickson? Commissioner Weiss?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here. Could you all please stand for the flag of salute and then remain standing for a silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, could you approve the agenda for the public forum?
Yeah, public forum for,
Public forum first. You want to go to item number 1?
No, item number 1, please.
Okay. Approve agenda for public forum as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda for the public forum as presented.
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded, and do I hear all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Public forum?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Is there any public forum to be, anyone want to come and speak?
Norman Manuel Salina. Last week I raised the issue on purchasing this water tank for the county highway department. I said, you got to have a permit to get the water. As of yesterday morning, I called the department that issues these permits. Saline County does not have a permit to obtain this water. So if you approve the purchase of this $39,000 item, it's going to set. I talked to the lady, and she says, there's nothing that you've applied for it from the Road and Bridge Department. And I says, will this be available for public to protest it? She says, yes.
Okay.
So I says, please send me a form. Okay. And I explained to her, I says, you don't need water to build a road. She says, you're right. I says, I believe the county has a compactor. So we spent $39,000. And it's going to sit there. As the president would say, you're fired.
Okay.
Somebody's not doing their job.
Well, I'm not the road builder, Norman, and so I think that, and the lady probably issuing the permits is not a road builder either, so I think one of the issues that I do know that, though, is that it's just like any farmer or the highway or the road and bridge, they can go out and purchase the water at any time and so much. So they don't have to have a permit to actually purchase it, I don't believe.
Yes.
So.
Yes, sir, they do. I've been in
Okay.
irrigation since 1951. You can't come take my water off my farm.
No, you can't take it, but they can go to the city and purchase the water out of a hydrant. They can put a meter on it and purchase it.
Okay, that's for another discussion.
Yes, okay, yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, item number 2.
Approval of county commission minutes for May 29, 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the county commission minutes of May 29, 2018 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.
Elder Abuse Awareness Month proclamation with Abby Hunter from DVAC.
Good morning, Abby.
Good morning. Okay. June 2017, Elder Abuse Awareness Month, whereas 1 in 10 seniors in America experiences mistreatment or abuse, including domestic and sexual violence. And because these incidents are vastly underreported due to shame and fear, only a limited number of victims are able to get the help they need. And whereas too often elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation threaten the livelihoods of older individuals and erode their extraordinary potential. And whereas abusers of older adults are both women and men and may be family members, friends, caregivers, or trusted others. And whereas legislatures in all 50 states have passed some form of elder abuse prevention laws, including laws against physical and sexual abuse, neglect, abandonment, and exploitation, such as the illegal stalking, misuse, or concealment of funds, property, or assets of a senior for another's benefit. And whereas neglect, the failure by those responsible to provide food, shelter, health care, or protection is the most common form of elder abuse. And whereas elders throughout the United States lose an estimated $2.6 billion or more annually due to elder financial abuse and exploitation. And whereas in the state of Kansas, there are an estimated 55,375 cases of elder abuse each year, and 26% of the reported elder abuse cases in the West region of Kansas were within the 10 counties of Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas serves. And whereas Saline County's vulnerable and older adults of all social, economic, racial, and ethnic backgrounds may be targets of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, which can occur in families, long-term care settings, and communities. And whereas the establishment of Elder Abuse Awareness Month will benefit older people, their families, health services, and communities regardless of socioeconomic status, gender, sexual orientation, or ethnicity. Whereas we all have a responsibility to support the safety, welfare, and dignity of Saline County's vulnerable and older adults. And whereas Saline County must work toward ending elder abuse by assisting victims in accessing the information and supportive services they need, creating better and more resources for older adults in need, instituting effective intervention and prevention policies, and engaging in discussion with family members and peers to promote awareness and prevention of the quiet epidemic of elder abuse. Now, therefore, the Saline County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims June 2017 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in the County of Saline and urges all citizens to work together to help protect elders from abuse, neglect, and exploitation, because it is imperative that we refuse to tolerate the indignity of elder abuse.
Thank you. Anything else? Any comments from the public?
Do you have any events planned that this?
Unfortunately, no,
Right.
we do not.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move we declare June 2018 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion carries. Saline County is more than proud to present you with an Elder Abuse Awareness Month, June 2018. Item number 4.
Kansas Workforce One Agreement with Deb Scheibler, Executive Director.
Good morning, Deb.
Good morning, and thank you so much for allowing me to come and visit with you today. I actually live in Salina, so I didn't have to go very far. I'm with Workforce One. We are the local workforce board that covers 62 counties in western Kansas, so I am rarely in Salina because we travel so much. We are here today to bring to you a revised agreement between Saline County and Kansas Workforce One. A couple years ago, our law changed, and I provided you with a memo that kind of goes through it a little bit easier than reading the entire agreement. But a couple years ago, our law changed from the Workforce Investment Act to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And in doing so, we were required to do new agreements, which each one of the counties in our local areas. This new agreement is simply a revision. When laws are put into place at the federal government, we then wait for a while to get our regulations, and then we wait to get additional guidance. And since then, we've been given additional guidance on what needed to be in the agreement. Primarily, the idea of the agreement is that when the state or when the governor accepts these federal Department of Labor funds into the state, he does so, or he or she does so on behalf of all of the counties in the state of Kansas. The agreement is to make you, number one, aware of these funds and what they do in your county, but also to ensure that you're aware of the financial responsibility, and then also the aware of your ability to appoint one of your members to be a part of our Chief Elected Official Board. Our Chief Elected Official Board actually oversees all the work that we do at Kansas Workforce One and through Local Area 1. So you are more than welcome, and we would love to have one of you as a part of that Chief Elected Official Board, again, to ensure that we are doing what we're supposed to do with those funds. Do you have any questions for me?
How many are on that board?
I'm sorry?
The officials board?
We have 7 on
Okay.
that board now. Our chair is Don Davis. He is the Barton County
Right.
Commissioner Chair for us. And I also did provide you, just so you have an idea of what we do in Saline County with these funds, I provided you with a report that's for this last program year. We, of course, don't work on a calendar year. We have to have our different year. So we work from July to June. So we're just about ready to end our year. And you'll see that in our Kansas Works offices, and that's Kansas Workforce One is our administrative name, our board name. To the public, we're Kansas Works. I hope you've heard of us, and I hope you've seen our office down on Ash Street. We serve 1,342 people, Saline County residents, with basic job search. So that can be anywhere from resumes to job recruiting, interview prep, any level of services like that. In addition to that, we actually utilized our training funds for 45 individuals that are Saline County residents to go back to school and earn a credential that will help them obtain and retain a job. And you can see the list of those types of jobs that we did. And in addition to that, our other side of the customers that we serve are employers. And in the last 2 years, we've served between 1,481 and slightly over 1,500 employers in the Saline County region. And that can be anywhere from a job fair, recruiting, on-the-job training, customized training. And fortunately, we haven't, in the last couple of years, had a lot of layoffs in Saline County, knock on wood. We've certainly had them further south of us, but we have not had to do any type of rapid response services to a significant degree in Saline County in the last couple of years. And we're happy for that. Any other questions for me?
Do you have to have all 62 counties sign this thing?
Yes, I do.
My.
I was in Hoxie yesterday by 9, so it was, again, nice to just drive down the block here. So, yeah, we have to get out there and visit all 62. Our board is very adamant that these funds are not just for the towns where our offices are. It's actually for all of the counties. So we're charged with serving at least one employer and one job seeker in every county every year.
Okay.
Do you team with any of the vocational schools?
Absolutely. Yeah, we couldn't do the training that we do without them. Oftentimes, all the people that we've sent to school are going to a Saline Area Tech or a Hutchinson Community College or North Central Kansas Tech. We also do customized training. Right now, we're doing a customized training project with Saline Regional Health Center, where they bring in their trainers and a different institution to help train their people. So it's totally up to the individual, and then, of course, if it's an employer, what's the training that they need?
All right. Do I have any motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we sign the chief elected official board agreement as presented.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 5.
2019 budget request from the Salina Community Economic Development Organization with Mitch Robinson, Executive Director.
Good morning, Mitch.
Thank you all for having me here today. We appreciate this opportunity to talk about what's happened with the Salina Community Economic Development Organization. A lot of times we just say EDO to kind of help shorten it a little bit, but glad to be here. And I've got several of my board members here. Today I've got current Chair Jeff Thompson, past Chair Pete Rumgarden, and then one of your 2 county appointments, Lloyd Davison, who's also serving as chairman, treasurer this year. The other board member appointment that you all have is Cheryl Murray. Cheryl wasn't able to come in this morning, but what you've got before you is just a little packet of information, kind of an overview of what's been going on since we started, including kind of a little history for some of the commissioners who haven't been on that long. The organization was legally formed in December of 15. The board at that point took about a year to go through the process of finding an executive director, which I'm glad to say I was that selection, and started here in December of 16. So it's been hard to believe. It's been 18 months here in Kansas. It's been a great time. We've made, I think, some really good progress. As I like to say, we are starting to get some traction on some projects. That's kind of, new jobs is what we're all about. And, that's kind of our key thing. To go through that, though, you had to kind of start literally from the ground up. Website was one of the toughest things, just to get somebody selected and get that completed, which is done. Like any business, if you don't have a website, you're not really in business. So that was something we're very pleased with the results we've got. One of the next key items was the development of our strategic plan, which we're pleased that we selected Janet Ady. Janet is a longtime economic development professional out of Wisconsin. She came here. Rita and Commissioner Vigerson took part in some of those sessions we had open to the public, which all those sessions were open to the public. And we were able to come up with, a couple our goals, and we'll get into that here in a second. But other things that are going on, we were able to partner with the city on submitting the area for the Opportunity Zone, which is a new federal program that came out of the results of the last budget deal at the federal level. So we're looking forward to seeing all the details on that, but that's an opportunity that will allow businesses to be able to write off some expenses over a long term. So we're excited about that. We think that's another tool for us. And then one of the things, we were basically tasked with several different items. The number one thing was really recruitment of new business and helping develop businesses here in the community. So we have been working, and we'll talk about kind of our partners here in a minute, but we've been working with that. But the slide that shows starts with the dream, and there's a laptop in that picture. That really came about as a result of our summit meeting we had for entrepreneurs. This is, again, kind of the second prong of our efforts, is working with people who want to start businesses, who maybe have an ongoing business but need to expand it. So we're looking at providing financing, assisting, and really bringing the powers of the organization like we just heard about to the table in terms of job training assistance. We worked with the Northwest Central Regional Planning Commission out of Beloit. They've got a wide range of programs in terms of loans and some grant money. Obviously, the state of Kansas has a wide range of programs as well. So we need to look at each individual project and say, okay, this is what we need to do because you're doing X. This project over here is doing something different, so we bring a different source of tools to work with that company. So we're excited about that. And part of that, this rollout recently of we're calling Startup Salina, is that entrepreneurial effort. And tomorrow we're going to be in Manhattan. There's a national program that's over 160 communities called 1 Million Cups. It's an entrepreneurial program to help get people together and talk about entrepreneurship, get businesses out in front of people that have maybe financing to help those companies. So we're going to be visiting Manhattan tomorrow. Next week we're going to be down in Wichita seeing their program. We're also looking at what's called a Fab Lab. A Fab Lab is a place where there's equipment, tools that people can share jointly. There is a Fab Lab out at Kansas State Polytechnic. One of the professors at Kansas Westland has got equipment that he uses, but we're trying to bring all those in together, and maybe in one location, maybe it might be more, to open that up to the public, where people that would like to use that equipment, maybe to start a business, maybe it's just for a hobby, to help them with that. So that's something we're working on, but that's something we're really excited about, this Startup Salina. We'll be rolling out a new logo with that group pretty soon. But we had 51 people attended that meeting, so we were excited about trying to get that word out. It's like Commissioner Shadwick, his business when he started that, we're trying to rely on those people who have experience, and we're going to be calling on you to take part in that program because you've got some great example, I think, of success. We've had a lot of examples here in Saline County of people who started businesses and have grown and been very successful who then have given back. So we want to recognize those, learn from those, and move forward. Getting back to more of our traditional marketing efforts, the Kansas Economic Development Alliance is one of our statewide groups of people like myself. When the state had pretty significant budget cuts to Department of Commerce, the communities across the state, the economic development folks across the state really had to step up, put money up, make investments in marketing and efforts to make Kansas more on the screen of companies that are expanding. And this group is one of those, and we host a wide variety of events of reaching out to Dallas, to consultants. The consultant community is getting more and more involved. A lot of the times when we get a project through the state, it'll be driven by a consultant. We're working on one now. We've just submitted to a consultant that I've known for 6, 7, 8 years now. And so that message of getting Salina out, Saline County out, it's to these organizations. We've got the consultant event that was listed. We also are part of a group that's looking at Europe, works with German, French, English companies that we're trying to get the word out overseas as well, because some of the investments that's going on there could be here in the Midwest, could be in our area. So we're excited about that. But the website, again, I can't stress that enough. That's really a foundation. A lot of times communities don't even realize they're being considered, but you're able to track your web, and we're able to do that. You find out kind of who's looking at you and what pages are being looked at, so that's very important. Another program that you all have been involved with is, as a funding source, is our UAS program out at Polytechnic. We're really excited about what's going on now out there. The study has been completed, and we'll hopefully be able to release some of that information here in the next few weeks. But we just came back 3 weeks ago from the AUVSI, which is the unmanned, nationally the largest unmanned show in the country. This year we were lucky, it was over in Denver, so it was relatively close. But we met with companies that were looking for information about Kansas. We were part of a large group from the state of Kansas who worked promoting the state as a whole, but we also were able to find some leads that were people interested in Salina, in the airport authority area, in some of the available buildings. So we have developed some projects from that, and we're excited about working on those. But this is kind of the part of that outreach. Again, we've got to spread the message of Salina. The other thing we're going to talk about here in a little bit is the UAS Tech Forum, and we'll talk about that here in another slide. But this study is very important for the future. This is kind of our, you always look at a community, you come in and evaluate it, what are your strong points, what are you best able to sell. Obviously, this is one of the things when you have the second best program in the state, or I'm sorry, in the United States, that's a high point that we're going to work on. So we're going to continue to work with them, and we're excited about what's going on at the airport. Moving over to the relationships, this is, as you all have in business, you got to have relationships, and that's part of, just like for a community, you have to have relationships with your friends. And commerce, even though they've been really cut the last several years, they still are the prime point of contact for companies that are looking at the state. So we've developed an excellent relationship with their staff from the current acting director. We'll see after the elections of who gets that job permanently, or at least for the next election cycle. But we're excited about that. The site location consultants, which I've talked about, we're continuing to work with those people and get our message out. And then there's the realtors and developers, people that are here locally, out of Kansas City we've worked with, and then on a national scale we work with those folks. Utility companies, again, those are important people that we have to be very close with, and with the merger of Westar and I can't remember now what the new name will be of the company, but that's going to be very positive. I see that as a very positive. Kansas City Power and Light has got one of the most aggressive, professional economic development staffs, and they're going to be bringing a lot of that knowledge and experience to their new territory. So we're very excited. We've got really good relationships with those folks. The next 5 slides kind of get into the goals, result of the strategic plan. I'm not going to go through all these. I'll be more than happy to answer questions. But basically, the first slide, we talk about growing the economy, and that's really kind of the basics of keeping up with information on your utilities, your infrastructure, the buildings you have available, which is kind of an ongoing changing thing. The airport just took one of their buildings off. They just signed a lease, so that building now is off the list for proposals. And then we also obviously are very interested in our industrial sites, finding any new property that might be available that we can use to market to prospective companies. So those are the important things in that area. Next is really the issue that's impacting all of us. We had our workforce lady that was just here. Talent. Where are you finding the workers we have? The national numbers came out 3.8% nationally. This past month, we were at 2.9, if I remember correctly. So we're pretty much at full employment. So we need to figure out ways, and we're working on those with the chamber and some other groups, to figure out a way to help bring more people here. You all, historically, this has been the center for jobs within this region. We've got to continue to reach out to bring more and more people here, and we think we've got some pretty good ideas that we're going to work on through the rest of the year on helping get that up. More people to move, which creates another issue, which is goal number 4 or 5, is the housing. That's something we've got to work with as well. Number 3 really is increased community alignment. Really, that means we've got to work with more groups. Economic development is not just a one organization. It's a very broad effort. We've got, David is one that, when we call upon him, he helps us with information related to the county, along with Rita. So we've got to have a bigger team. I always like to say it's a big tent. And when we do have those successes, the picture usually is a wide-angle lens that everybody can be in a tent. It's just not 1 or 2 people. Item 4, Startup Saline. I already really discussed that. We talk about our efforts with small businesses, recruiting entrepreneurs to the community, helping get them started. And number 5 is the housing. This is something we'll be helping other organizations who've got the prime responsibility. We like to think about bringing new ideas, new opportunities, look at new programs, so we'll be continuing to work with that. Flip over, kind of the main reason, the original reason for our discussion is the budget. It's hard to believe we are in our 3rd year of the original three-year agreement that all the supporting organizations signed. So we're looking toward, commitment for the next 3 years. That's been the agreement. We would like to continue that. That helps us with our budget process, where we know how much we've got to spend for the next several years. We are making a request for a larger amount from the county. You all, first 3 years, we're at 20. We're requesting that number go up to 50,000. So that's where we are with that. And we can talk more when I answer questions you'll have. The UAS Tech Forum, this is an annual event that's held in Oklahoma or Kansas. It's a 2-state, this is kind of an SBA-sponsored program, again, to help push aviation, unmanned aviation out. This current year, the forum is in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Next year, we hope to have it in Salina. There is going to be an upcoming RFP that'll be sent out probably, it'll be this month sometime. We're expecting it to come, and then we'll have a response, have to have a response to them with about 30 days. We've already been having some discussions. There is, unfortunately, a $25,000 fee. If you want to play, you got to pay, and we're at that point. Last week sent Rita a letter. City has agreed to a portion. Kansas State Polytechnic has agreed to a portion. We will come up with our portion, and then we've also asked the airport the chamber, and in the state of Kansas. So if we split that up, it's about $3,600. That's not, we don't think, an unreasonable amount. We'd be looking at about 200 people coming to the community for the program. That will be hosted. We haven't selected a hotel yet, but we're looking at bringing those people in. And those are folks that are the top entrepreneurs, education people, business people who are in the unmanned world. So for us really to stay in that forefront, to help keep us in the status, we need to be hosting it here. 2 years ago it was in Wichita, which makes a lot of sense, but we don't want to see it drifting off to Topeka or Manhattan or Lawrence. We want it here. So we need to have that money committed and be able to respond to that. So put that in your thoughts about your all's budget situation, and we'll talk about that as we come. And then probably really the most important thing, get over the questions. And that's really what I love, to take questions from anybody, public, obviously. You all are supporting members, so you have that right, and I expect to get questions. And then any of the board members, if you all want to say anything, they've carried us through and have been excellent. I've really enjoyed this. This is one of the best boards I've had. They ask the right questions. They know what we need to be focused on, and that's something that's been very positive.
Mr. Vice Chair, can I ask a few questions?
please.
Okay.
Any
Just with your last thought, who does the $25,000 go to?
That goes to the what's called the cluster initiative.
Okay.
That is the organization that oversees,
That puts together the program and
puts
everything?
together the program. Now we'll have really, we've already met once about programming, so K-State will lead that. They're going to bring their expertise along with the other cluster folks.
I feel that when you started in 2015, there was some confusion about what your organization did and what the chamber did. Do you feel that that has cleared up a little bit? I have a sense that it has. I just don't know. Do people still get calls at the chamber thinking that they're the lead on development and things like that?
They do,
Okay.
and they refer those back to me.
Okay.
You know, we're on the same phone system, so it's just a matter of transferring back to myself. And I didn't introduce Robin Van Hatta.
Right.
Robin works with me. She's my right hand, so she'll take the call, or if I'm the one in the office at the moment, I'll take the call. But
Right.
yeah, I think it has.
I think it has too. I just didn't know what you felt like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to continue that. Something, I've done existing industry as well as recruitment. The way this was structured, the chamber has retained that role.
Right.
And I'm really glad Eric Brown is back at the chamber, because I was worried that I was going to help train somebody.
Right.
But Eric just steps right back into where he was, and we're excited about that.
Yeah,
So-
I'm excited about that too. The startup Saline, are you the contact person on that? Let's just say I had an idea or somebody has an idea, and I think there's always that, who do I call? I mean, are you the person that somebody in Saline County calls that has a great idea? Is that
We want to be.
Okay.
We want to be. But it's, again, that's a teamwork between the chamber. This really started as a result of a Federal Economic Development Administration grant that we're working on now. I didn't have that as one of our accomplishments, but it should be. That is looking at the entrepreneurial ecosystem, as they call it. We had a meeting, summit meeting. We had, I think it was 22 organizations that were invited that took a couple minutes to talk about what they have. So we've got a good structure. It's a matter, I think, more coordination to make it more efficient. And you're right, we do need a central point where, okay, somebody needs financing, then we can talk about Project Open, which is through the chamber.
And that was another, that's still available?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. That would be good for somebody, smaller loan requirements, smaller needs. And then if it's more dollars than, say, if we're looking over $100,000, then we need to bring in the Regional Planning Office out of Beloit. They've got several different loan programs that they can bring to the table. SBA, of course, is always there. So it's a matter of, what's the best fit for that project.
Any other comments from the questions? Any questions from the public? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. White, Commissioner
Yeah,
White.
just wondered if any of the board members wanted to have some comments. You were all shaking your head a little bit ago when he mentioned it, so.
Okay.
Well,
I'll ask
a
him.
quick question is the startup, the entrepreneurship business downtown in the Masons Building or the Masonic Temple, is that part of this group, or is that a completely different thing?
Yes, it is part of our
Okay.
oversight. We're working with Mary
Okay.
on that, trying to help, and I'm on her board, matter of fact, helping, try to find uses for the building, so
Okay.
that definitely is part of our effort.
Okay.
You mentioned some of your biggest challenges, and I think that I understand where you're coming from. I think that a lot of people in the public somehow just think that we can just bring in huge industries, and, why isn't Salina getting that? And, there's not a lot of communities that are getting that. But if you're talking to us today, we can't do a lot of, we can't help you in a lot of ways there, but what can the commission do to help create more of a entrepreneurial vision for Saline County? Is it just, funding is all, you need money, and I get that.
Obviously, you've got to have funding to be able to do things, but I think being open to the public like you all are, I think it's been from what I've seen, I think it's a good situation, and I've called a couple of you all in the past on issues, Commissioner Vidrickson, several times on things, along with Rita. So, I think it's a matter of, right now, especially on the entrepreneur side, it's more of a coordination thing of bringing all the players together and really making that exchange of information easier. The Facebook page we've started is part of that. We've gotten questions already. People are looking at the area. So, we're going to continue that and grow that. But I think overall it's a matter of coordination and promotion. We've just got to get the message out that, hey, we're wanting to do this. And I think that's the part about the UAS business. We need to make sure when people think about Kansas, they think about Salina. And that's why we're promoting that so heavily.
And I know traditionally, economic development, people have gone to the city, just to the city commission and that group, and I just hope that you feel comfortable coming to us to be part of that, sitting at the table too. So
most definitely.
Okay.
As I said, that tent, it's a big tent, so we want all the parties there.
Thank you. Well, we're in the process of our 2019 budget right now, so we're
Understand that.
definitely looking at that.
Please,
So-
as you go through that, please, if you got questions, have Rita contact me or contact me directly, either way.
And I'd encourage the other commissioners to go down and see Mitch in his office and kind of just know where he is. And I do like you being at the Chamber building, just so you know. I know there was talk originally about not being at the Chamber building to stop that confusion, but it does make it easy for just the
It really
Chamber to
does.
just transfer the phone and to you. And
I've been in this business over 30 years, and every location I've been, except for one, and that was a mistake, I felt like, was located with the Chamber.
Right.
People think of that naturally as a point of contact. Economic development, standalone economic development organizations really have started since really the early to mid-80s, 1980s. So it's a natural, I think it's a natural location.
is Deb with the North Central Regional Planning Center still housed there once a week or once a month? I can't remember.
Once a week, just depending on her schedule. Sometimes it's more, sometimes less, just depending. But she's been an excellent resource.
Okay. You need to take public comment too.
Yes.
So.
And any
Thank you,
public
Mitch.
comment or questions at this time? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Karen Shade, Salina. First, I want to thank the EDO for making copies of their presentation available to everyone in this room. I remember watching on Access about a month ago, the Chamber just presented their proposals to the commissioners. Of course, the Open Meeting Records Act allowed me to get an access to that. But I do appreciate the EDO's courage in specifically talking about an amount of their request. the chamber did ask for their traditional amount for their routine operations and their military affairs, and then they spoke about employee retention activities and really didn't put a budget to what that might be and the costs there. One of the things I take a little bit of concern with on page 10, where it is labeled budget, that should, in my opinion, be labeled sources of revenue, because to me a budget has revenues and expenditures. And so that is a concern I have with both the Chamber's proposal and what I've been given today. It's just helpful to see what the revenues are coming in and what it's being used for. I know some of that gets proprietary and can maybe interfere with some things, but I want to at least take a moment to say that. I do appreciate Commissioner Chadwick's comments about the confusion between the EDO and the Chamber. As someone who watches this peripherally, I am continually confused. I do appreciate that the EDO is open to the public, and that does not exist with the Chamber. The other thing is, this is a little bit of a sidebar, but with Jason Gage, the city manager, going to Springfield, the Springfield newspapers are saying they are bringing in a fellow who has brought economic development to Salina in the $150 million downtown project and in the $30 million Rivers project. And there's a part of me that goes, I don't think the Chamber was that involved. If we remember discussions of 6 months ago, the Chamber had been fired by the city about that time. And I don't recall, the EDO was too new for that to happen. So who is providing economic development in Salina? Is it the Committee 2020, who was part of the Star Buns and what I understand to be the downtown project? Is it Friends of the River? Are we doing this willy-nilly or not? So I think there still is a lot of confusion out there, and some coordination of activity I think would be beneficial, at least for me.
Thank you. Any rebuttal? Rebuttal?
No, rebuttal, but agreement.
Any
We
comments?
don't want to go back to the debate to high school.
Okay.
I think she's got some legitimate questions. You're right, this is definitely not a budget. This is a financial sources of revenues, as she said. That's true. We do an audit, just to kind of go on that, we do an audit every year. Next week we'll have our audit for the past year, so that'll be available, and we always send that to you all for your information. So in terms of what's happened downtown, yeah, I think that was definitely a city-driven project because of the financial incentives and tools that had to be developed. So we came in a little late to the party, so to speak. So we have supported them, have answered questions. We'll be very excited to work with them as this moves ahead. But as you all know, it's pretty much all downtown. So that's moving that project ahead. We have the chairman of the River Group here with us as well. So that's another hat he wears. So yeah, it's really, as I said, it goes back to the inclusion. We have to have more interaction of all the parties to be successful. That's the bottom line, really.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Morning.
Morning.
Joan Ratzlaff, Salina. I appreciate the work that the Economic Development Organization is doing, and their report, their consultant's report that is pretty recent, had a lot of good information in it. I think that, and I appreciate how that they did include community comments, including from the Salina Area Workers Coalition, although they didn't quote that group. There was information that was brought out. It seemed to be universal, not just from the workers group, but also others, regarding some of the conclusions, and some of those were mentioned today, particularly the housing issue, and that report pointed out how affordable housing was hard to come by. One of the things that to me stood out in that report was the focus on the need to raise wages. This community has long been touted and promoted as a low-wage community, affordable wages. And my feeling is that has encouraged the kinds of employers that are going to pay low wages, and that directly impacts people's ability to own their own homes. And if you can buy your own house, or if you have the funds to build a new one, even if it's a modest one, then that is a big plus for our community. Understandably, a lot of employers, existing or new, but particularly existing in this community, would like to preserve the status quo of low wages because that helps their ability to compete. But on the other hand, it impacts our ability to bring people here and to get them to stay. If you can go down the road a few miles and increase your pay considerably, then that hurts us here in this community. If we could promote our talent as being quality rather than a bargain, I think that would be a great benefit to us. So I would encourage the Board of County Commissioners to do what you can to help in that effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, all of you. Item number 6.
RFA 158-18, Project 17-5369, RCB Construction Bid Award with Neil Cable, County Engineer.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Neil.
This item for your consideration is to discuss and take appropriate action on a Saline County Road and Bridge Department request to award a contract for the furnishing of all materials, equipment, and labor, and doing all the work, whatever kind necessary, to construct a reinforced concrete box, drainage conveyance structure on Burma Road, 0.15 miles south of Thorstenberg Road. We opened sealed bids on the project on May 29th, and we got really good response. We got 5 companies that submitted bids. They range from a high of $140,354 to a low of $92,611.80, and the engineer's estimate was $100,000, so it's right in there. So the alternatives for action today are to accept the staff recommendation or reject all bids and rebid or other options. And the staff recommendation is to award a contract for $92,611.80 to the low bidder L&M Contractors. And they're out a great bid. I would add that this is kind of a short fuse project. Again, it takes out one of our major roads, everybody knows, Burma. And so we're not letting them start before the end of wheat harvest, but we also have put a real aggressive completion date in mid-August before school buses start rolling. So again, making that work depends on when harvest actually finishes up. And so that caused a little bit of consternation with our bidders, is because we didn't have a definite start date, but we set a definite end date. So anyhow, so the budget recommendation, or the budget impact, or whatever that's called, again, the funds out of the 125, which is the road and bridge, special bridge construction, or $2 million account, will be used for the project. We've got just shy of $750,000 in there, and if the commission elects to award a contract today, we'll have $653,000 left. And we do have another bridge that we're going to put out for bids here in the next few weeks, so that money's pretty well spoken for.
And we've worked with L&M before, haven't we?
Yeah, they're the country club contractor, right. And they've built numerous bridges in the county over the years, and they're a good contractor. Yeah, real good. They're kind of all, they're not so much box builders. They kind of all sort out by specialties, and most of the bridge builders are now reaching lower to boxes because of the economy in Kansas, and KDOT's lack of funding is that they'll go for anything right now. So it's good for us. It's not a good thing for our contractor community. I love a bargain, but we need a healthy contractor community in Kansas, and so it's mixed blessings, I guess.
And what's the necessity of replacing the present structure?
It was built in the 40s, so it's about 75 years old. It was, in that era, they didn't put bottoms in the boxes, so it's undermined over 2 foot. We were just out there again yesterday to look at it, just to get it all fresh in my mind, because the previous time I looked at it's been a few months ago. So it's we're starting to lose the approaches. You can kind of see some holes forming in the approaches to the structure, which means we're getting it going under the footing, And now we do have some other structures like that on Burma Road, and we've really we're going to put bottoms in those, but this one is kind of too far gone. Some of those you can retrofit with a new bottom, and wherever we can save something, I'm kind of into that, but not when it's already 75 years old and, it's kind of served its useful life for us.
I understand.
Do you know how long the detour route, how long will that be? Distance?
It'll be, well, actually, you'll have to go around on, let me add up the miles, probably 2 or 3 miles at least, maybe 4. We're kind of blessed in Saline County in that we've got roads every mile except the ones where we've closed bridges, so.
There were some bridges that were closed down in that area.
Yeah, but you can still go around on, we replaced boxes on Thorstenberg several years ago, and so that's a good route around, and so, it's that short-term pain thing. We'd rather not detour the school buses because that's a bigger issue. So that's why we're trying to get it really done before school fires up.
Well, it's unfortunate we have to do it, but the alternative is to have bridges not be safe. So.
It's nobody wants to wait one day too long.
Right.
And what that day is, I don't really know. I don't think anybody can predict that well.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Any public comments? Back to a motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move we award the bid to the lowest bidder, L&M Contractors, Inc., in the amount of $92,611.80 for project number 17-5369.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7.
RFA 159-18, Resolution 18-2252, Minimum Maintenance Road Reclassification, with David Neal, Planning and Zoning Director.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr.
This is a project you started back in March to reclassify a piece of Crawford Road west of Donmeyer from Earth Road down to minimum maintenance. It started in Neal's hands with the application, and because state statute requires the Planning Commission to look at it for any traffic or development issues, it went through me, and now it's finally here at an end. We held the hearing last night for that project. The road itself is, calling it an earth road is kind of generous. I call it 2 patches where the grass isn't growing. It dead ends into Gypsum Creek. There's no crossing over Gypsum Creek, so there's no traffic issues out that way. We looked at the development patterns out there. It's all earth roads out there. Country Club is the nearest paved road a mile to the north, so any development would naturally happen up that way. So there shouldn't be any issues there. The only issue the Planning Commission had was to make sure that utilities had access to anything they needed. Westar's comment was that it's already what they considered a minimal maintenance road, so it makes no impact to them. It's not improved, but they can still access their power lines. We did look at vacating the road, but because some of the properties in the back would still need access, we have to at least keep it as minimum maintenance. Although a portion of that has already been vacated between the creek itself and about a quarter-mile west of Donmeyer Road. So some portion of Crawford's already been vacated. I don't see Mr. Mortimer here, who is one of the applicants. All the landowners in the area seem to agree that they would like to see this reduced to minimum maintenance. And my understanding is the plan is to put up some gates, which will help keep out people from trespassing back there in the fields and keeping mudders out of the road so that it stays a little easier to maintain.
Any public comment at the meeting?
No, just
Okay.
Mr. Mortimer
Okay.
saying he appreciates it all.
Okay, very good.
Any other comments or questions? Any public? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the petition to change the portion of Crawford to a minimum maintenance road and direct Road and Bridge to place appropriate caution signs on the road as listed in Resolution 18-2252.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8.
Fiscal year 2019 reinvestment grant renewal with Annie Grievous, Community Corrections Director.
Good morning, Ms. Grievous.
This is a renewal grant. You approved the full grant narrative, program narrative, and budget last year. It came in the amount of 6 months of funding because sometimes that's how the state works. So this time, it's a 2-year cycle renewal, so we don't have to submit the application again, we just have to submit the budget. So I'm not going to talk much about it. Lori Blake from CAPS, who receives the funding and does the programming, is here, and she's going to talk about some changes. But the amount is $157,253. It's the same amount from last year. The carryover money from the 6 months has to be utilized first, and then that first check that comes to us for the current year, which will start July 1, will be deducted by that amount. And the reason there's a ton of carryover is because they gave us 6 months of a project and gave you full year funding. Yeah, that might be my next job. It makes little sense to me. So, but whatever, it's fine. So, the money's still there. So, you don't have a grant narrative because you've already approved that. What you have in front of you is a budget narrative, and Lori will talk about some budget line item changes. I have approved those changes. They were simple to move from one line item to another that doesn't change the bottom dollar. She just felt like after 6 months of working the program, there was a better use for the funds, so I appreciate her intent to that, because as you put money in other line items, as you all know, you don't use it, you lose it. So I appreciate that she's initiating some other areas. I have signed, Todd Highschmidt for the advisory board has approved it. We're in front of you to get a signature from the chair, and then that'll be forwarded to DOC. The only other thing I want to say is we are doing an MOU. We have it ready to go to Mike Montoya for approval. Once that happens and I get his approval, then we'll get that signed. Otherwise, I'll let Lori, and thank you for being here, talk about that.
So we are officially in our second month of receiving clients. We hired a new employee that started in March, had a month of training, and then we started receiving referrals from community corrections on April 1st. We have 21 juvenile offenders in that time and their families that we have been serving. During that time, we quickly became aware that the families we're serving had access to mental health services, which is wonderful. We had written in a very generous line item of $10,500 in the original grant request to be able to help families access mental health services if they didn't have funding or if they didn't have insurance to do so. So we moved those dollars throughout the grant. Personnel line item is exactly the same, and that's the majority of the grant request to begin with. But we moved them into areas for transportation to help get clients to our office, or for us to be able to provide mileage so our staff can go visit them in their homes. to provide GED testing and pay for summer school fees so that students who are needing some of those recovery credits to remain engaged in school, that they would have some financial support to do those kinds of things. But that's the primary movement that we did and the reasons for that.
And Surge, isn't that new?
And Surge, yes. Surge is a big, brand new part. It's $4,500. Community Corrections and CAPS had about a $10,000 line item for training to get the program up and going. That does not need to carry over into next year's grant. And so Surge is the restorative justice program. We are going to work with them on individual cases where Community Corrections feels like mediation is necessary, and then that takes our family mentor out of that role and the youth service specialist out of that role of mediating between parent and child, so that they can resolve some of those internal home conflicts that are taking place without us having to choose a side. And so we have $4,500 allocated for that.
And I want to say, again, effective use of the dollars. We put in training dollars for our community corrections staff to become official trained mediators. So the goal would be that into the next cycle and the next year, we stick with this program, because I'm all about you don't start a program and then look for other resources. This is working well, and it's really meeting the needs of our youth and families. Then we won't need extra community dollars to go there. We can utilize community corrections staff at no cost because they're salaried, and they will then provide that mediation with the families and the youth. So that's another savings of dollars that we can roll into other services for the youth. So this grant was put together, well thought, with the help of Lori and myself and my financial guru back here, Sherry. And I'm telling you, I hope the money doesn't go away. You never know about state funds. I hope it increases, but we'll watch it closely. But I'm very proud of this work and CAPS and our collaboration. And if you would have specific dollar questions, Sherry receives the funding and reviews the budget before it comes to me to make final approval. So I always bring her here in case you quick me up with a question that I'm not sure about.
Our goal for the program in 12 months was to serve 100 youth. So to be at 21 in 6 weeks, I think is pretty phenomenal. And it just shows the need for the program, and hopefully it takes some burden off of community corrections staff and really impacts those families' homes and getting at the root issues that leads kids to offend.
Very good.
Do we work really hard on working with the juvenile and the parents together
Yes.
to try and...
That is our model.
Okay.
Yes.
I just was wondering, thank you.
What we've
They are
seen,
family services.
Yeah,
Yes.
what we've seen over the years is that if you don't include families, good does not come. So we're requiring at least one family member, a mother or a father, to participate. We're offering services for them alone also in how to deal with the youth that might be struggling with different areas of mental health, substance abuse, and things like that. So with these dollars and a state-mandated new program, we're really expanding into the families and doing some in-home services and free classes and work with them.
Lori, how do you measure your success?
So our program is all based on evidence-based practices. There's pre-assessment for both the youth and the parent to identify what their gaps and what their strengths are when they enter our program. And then every 6 weeks, those are measured. They retake those assessments to be able to show growth and whether we've made progress on those risk factors that were identified. They have to completely show that those issues have been resolved before they exit our program. The state guidelines are that we have 4 months to work with that family really intensely to address the issues that are identified. But then if they don't get done in 4 months, we have up to 10 months through the state contract that we can continue working with them. And then CAPS is committed to families. Our family mentoring program, we have families that we've served for 2+ years if the work needs to be done. And it's all based on those assessments that our staff are administrating. Yep.
Thank you. What a program.
Excellent. Any other questions?
And this is just
Public comment.
public comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Norman Mantle, I don't think I've missed a meeting, but how's the new digs, Annie?
Well, I was going to mention that since we're on public TV, but do you want to resolve this first? And
Yes,
then
yes, okay.
Thank you, Norman. The digs are good, buddy.
Mr. Chairman, I move we sign the FY 2019 Reinvestment Grant Fund as requested by staff.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So to
Other business?
answer Norman's delightful question, that agency is beautiful. And I don't know if you've been over there eyeing it. They're still finishing up touches, but as of yesterday, KCI is here putting in the furniture. So by Friday, we should have it all installed. All the finishing touches should be done. In fact, I'm doing 2 walkthroughs a day, even though I know little. I've got 3 things written down for my questions. So I'm doing, like I said, I'll go over after this and go through another walkthrough, and then before they leave at 5:30 or so, I go back through. But it's gorgeous. I cannot tell you the difference it's going to make for staff and what I believe clients. Clients came to the place we exist in now, and when you feel good, staff and clients, about coming somewhere and it's clean and nice and neat, smells good, I mean, there's a huge difference in people's attitude and behaviors. So I expect staff to really step it up and clients to step it up in all those areas. The staff is so excited and has gone over there, so I can't tell you. Thank you for helping me get this far, and please go over. After Friday, we'll start moving. So I do want to say, we put this out to everybody, but I'll make it another public statement. Community corrections will be closed for a week, starting next Monday, and we'll work from Monday to Friday to move everything. So that'll be the process we'll be taking, and then clients will start being seen again that following Monday at the new digs. So. I'm hoping to do, through Rita, a chamber after hours in August. That would be something I think they need to see, because that took a dingy old building and made it just beautiful.
It is just amazing.
The colors, aren't the colors beautiful? This designer,
Yes, they are.
This designer chose all the coloring, all the hardware, every piece of anything that's in there. Wow. So that might be another job I look at later in life, designer. I don't know.
You're good at what you do.
Well, thank you, but I think I have some other talents that I was not aware of until this opened up for me. So I appreciate all the commission and all the county staff that have helped us get through this, and we're very, very excited.
Call me before you do that walkthrough. Can I come?
What time?
The afternoon one?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I will. We'd be glad to have you.
It is just beautiful.
Thank you.
And I look at the safety of everyone involved there is just, it's going to be enhanced
There's
immediately.
no stairs, there's no
Yes.
elevators. It's a flat line.
No blank for nobody to be caught in.
Evidence-based has told me forever to have 2 waiting areas. You don't want sight and sound for juveniles and adults, and yet we've not ever been able to accommodate that. We can now. We have our UA rooms that are, I mean, the tile is gorgeous, and the way they set it up with cabinets and flatware, I mean, I just can't, it's just beautiful.
Like a hospital.
And and our conference room and our classrooms are top-notch. I mean, it's just best. So, yes.
Good.
Thank you.
And I was kidding about helping with the moving party.
I don't think you are. I have a
you are.
list back here, and I have you on there. Commissioner White, we'll need you there at Monday at 8:30.
I may be out of town, I'm not sure.
I wrote you down.
Okay. Adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll have the meeting number 2 in room next door here after a